Hey everybody, it's Ziz here, and today I want to talk to you about the changes to combat in Crowfall. I got a couple big fights here. This is a 5v5. I was in a group with some Winter Blades. They're a guild that's in the test right now. So this is an organized 5v5. And then after this, there's like a bigger free-for-all. I think it was like 10 or 12 people. So some pretty cool action here you can check out. But I wanted to talk about the changes that they've made recently, because they're pretty huge. Some really big changes that honestly made the game worth playing for me. Previous to these changes that they just did in the last couple weeks, as much as the game sounded awesome on paper, and as much as I wanted to do well, the combat was so bad, I wouldn't have played the game. Absolutely, if the game came out with combat like that, I wouldn't have played it. But with these changes, they're so major, and we're going to talk about them, but they were so good. This went from being something I would never play to basically the most fun I've had fighting in an MMO in a long time, So we're going to talk about the changes here, but you should kind of already be able to see it if you've watched any of the older footage, if you've looked at the older combat, if you've seen in my old videos or what they've shown. It used to be more rooted. They had what was called root motion, where when you would left click, it would move your character forward. It would move you towards your reticle. But the problem with that is a number of things. One, it would automatically move you. It took control out of your hands, and it would move you a specific distance. And it was supposed to stop you if you ran into another player, but it didn't work very well. You would slide past people. You'd go shooting way past them. As soon as there was just a tiny bit of lag, you couldn't compensate before your animation would take over for you. And one of my favorite things about combat is the changes and what you have to do second to second, and even faster than that. We're talking like hundreds of times a second. You are strafing, you're backpedaling, you're moving around characters, you're recalculating your trajectory and positioning and all this sort of stuff. And root motion took that out of your hands. Basically, you would click a button, and then for the next 2 seconds, you wouldn't have to think about what you were doing. Your character would just do it, and then you would spend like a fraction of a second thinking, oh, what do I want to do next? And you click the button. And so really, you were only playing a small portion of the time, because the rest of the time, you were just waiting for an animation to finish before you could do something again. Now I know a lot of people don't like free movement with combat and MMOs, because they say it feels floaty, and they don't like circle strafing and all this stuff. And if that's who you are and you don't like it, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you, because I love it. I love this combat. There are some things they can do to make it a little bit better, a little more impactful. They can have some better sound effects. They can do different things, but you can already see the screen shaking and all sorts of stuff. I really enjoy it. Now, what they changed basically is that there's no more root motion. When you press a button, it does not take control for you. You can freely move. You can strafe left or right. You can move however you want. You see me throwing fireballs. It still uses the reticle. It's not tab targeting, but you can totally freely move. Now, this is the different fight here. This is kind of a free-for-all. You'll see here, I'm playing a knight, which has really low damage, and for some reason, all I do is attack healers, so I never kill anybody. And you see a little bit of rubber banding there. That's on the server side. But the combat feels so much better. If you've written this game off, if you looked at the older footage and you thought it looked terrible, I agree with you, it did. But it is worth playing now. Now, don't expect it to be a finished game. Don't think it's going to be perfect. There's still bugs. There's animations that aren't working. There's sound effects that aren't in. There's skills that are messed up. There's server netcode issues, right? It's still an alpha game. But the last time I played the game with the old root motion system, I played about 30 minutes before I rage quit. I'm being totally honest with you guys. I was that fed up with it after a year. When they made these changes, I played the game, I think it was 6 hours straight I was streaming. The next day I played like 8 hours straight. Since then I played like another 4 or 5 hours multiple times. I put 20-30 hours just into this test, running around trying to find people to kill, because it's so much fun. And just all the freedom it gives you, like being able to strafe while you attack seems like a little thing, but there's so much gameplay involved there. If you have multiple people you're attacking, right? If it's a 2v1, you want to try to strafe around and keep one of your enemies on the far side so you're only getting hit by one person, right? That's gameplay we wouldn't have had before. If there's a bunch of allies or enemies, you know what I mean? All this stuff where you can move and strafe and attack. Now, there are still some skills that root you. For example, the knight I'm playing right here, the number 2 ability is a shield charge up, where you hold it and it charges up the bar. You'll see me use it later. That you can't move while you're doing that, but it feels natural, right? You're powering up this big heavy attack. That ability there where you fly up in the air and come crashing down, you don't get to move freely while you do that. So there are a few abilities still that root you, but they're very few and far between, and they actually feel natural and the way you would expect it to feel. There's some classes that still have some issues, like the Ranger. A lot of their bow attacks, basically all their bow attacks right now, you can't move while you're shooting. You can left click shoot and it slows you down, so you move at like half speed while you're charging up your power shot, but the rest of the abilities root you. I think they're probably going to change that, considering the Confessor, what I was playing earlier, they're a ranged character and they can move freely with almost all their abilities except like 1 or 2. So I think they'll update that. This was just like their first pass. This is the first time they really added it to all the characters. And it feels great. It feels amazing. I think it's closest to probably Wildstar, because it's so fast. Now, you don't see all the ground telegraphs and stuff like that, but that stuff is happening, right? They don't show it on the ground, but that's frontal cones, AoEs, right? Free movement. Now, there are a few things that root you. I think there was some stuff in Wildstar that rooted you, and they might have changed that. But it definitely feels like a cross between, I would say, Wildstar and then Smite. If you've ever played Smite, that's a free-to-play game. The old system really felt, the closest to me, it felt like a level 1 character in Terra, and like play a super slow Lancer in Terra, level 1, but worse than that, way worse than that, or Neverwinter Online. It felt like that as well. So if you want a comparison, but I've played every archetype. They are all fun. There's some things they need to fix, the weapon swapping still, to make that a little bit smoother. Obviously some bugs and things like that. You see some rubber banding around here. But yeah, long story short, I love it. I love the direction they went in. I know some people don't like it, but this was the best change they've made in the game, bar none. I've been asking for it since day 1. I know a lot of people have. I know the devs wanted to try other stuff, but I really think this is going to be the best. And I hope you can see just in these 2 fights, it's amazing. So if you haven't played and you have the opportunity to, if you played and then you quit, come back, check it out, try it again. Understand it's alpha still, there's gonna be bugs, but it's a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.